Hey, you. Yes, you. As you may know, in Vulcan, we are a democratic country with laws to benefit the civilian population, as well as assisting those with needs. This may seem that Vulcan is all perfect. However, it isn't. Our government has a monopoly over the EI units, insurance, healthcare, security, and technology access, and this has caused some of our civilian population to fight for until the very last one, making some of our citizens unable to obtain these units, which could be crucial to them, such as the healthcare units. A monopoly is when a product or service can only be purchased from one company or supplier, and this is what Vulcan has to embrace for over a year. All of the businesses that the government own, except for the EI Hex, all produce only 13 units. Our country has a population of 26 citizens, and some of our citizens require two of the same units, which means that us civilians won't have enough units for all of the population of Vulcan. This has led to a supply and demand crisis where people try their best to get the remaining units until there are no more, and when there's no more, people can't get any more of these units until the very next year. I was lucky enough to avoid this crisis by sending my trade request before the rest of the population of Civic did. Therefore, I got my necessary units before any of my classmates did in the world of Vulcan. Unfortunately, the majority of the population waited until the very next day, where everyone was buying the units at the same time, which caused this supply and demand crisis, and this is why people did not receive their necessary units. This crisis has occurred twice in the Civic Mirror world and has caused a lot of deaths in the civilian population. The crisis that occurred in Civic Mirror is very similar to a panic buy during the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic in Washington state, which caused a supply and demand crisis. According to an article published by the BBC, a US citizen by the name of Christina Moy had to wait 3 hours to purchase groceries and supplies for her son's baseball game. This panic buy was caused by the governor of Washington state, Jay Inslee, declaring a state of emergency in Washington state. After the first recorded COVID-19 death in the year, essential household items such as toilet paper were gone within minutes. A quote from Christina described what the situation was like. Toilet paper and milk were flying off the shelves faster than I could count. Here is an image of the panic buy experienced by Christina herself. The reason why people in this image are panic buying is due to the COVID-19 epidemic heading towards the status of being labeled as a pandemic, and the deaths exceeding the SARS crisis. A study conducted by Frontiers.org shows that panic buys are caused by uncertainty, fear, and other people seeing abnormal buying habits. These three factors all contribute to people being fearful, so they stock up on essential supplies to stay home with. Washington state wasn't the only place that this happened. It also happened in Singapore. There was a massive demand for rice and instant noodles in Singapore. This caused long queues and shelves with instant noodles and rice to be quickly emptied, and this prompted the Prime Minister of Singapore, Lee Hsien Loong, to address the public that there was enough of these supplies for everyone. To respond to a panic buy, grocery stores have started to import more of the demanding items and regulate how many of the items a person can purchase. The response to the supply-demand crisis in Civic Mirror was very similar to the real-life response to the panic buy in real life. For example, the leading party of Vulcan introduced a law to regulate the number of EI units that could be purchased by a single individual. This was similar to how some brands, such as Costco, regulated the goods that could be purchased. To add on, the only thing that differentiates the problems near the real world is that the real world regulations are temporary, since people worry less about the pandemic as it progresses. So what can we learn from this situation from the real world and Civic Mirror? Well, we can learn that to prevent a supply-demand crisis, you will need to have a lot of the demanding items people require, such as food and water. If you can acquire these items, prevent your government from holding a monopoly via protests or a petition. If you can manage to do those two, you can regulate the amount of items a person can hold and purchase. Here are my references, and this is my Civic Mirror project.